Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In this video, we're going to talk about some D&D Fey creatures that one of my druids in my game likes to summon on a regular basis. He summons 8 wolves. Right now, I've have like a dozen wolves. But they were all mounted on these 20mm bases, and they weren't really painted or anything. So we've been playing with these like gray primered wolves for a while, and I've taken it upon myself. I said, you know what? I'm going to put a little effort into this. We're gonna paint these wolves, and we're gonna do it right. I've debated on whether, because they are summoned creatures from the Feywild, does that make them pink, blue, or purple? It could. I thought about it. I said, you know what? I could have a bunch of pink wolves on the table, and then it would give him second thought on whether or not he wanted to summon them. No, I'm just kidding. But I thought about purple. I even have purple sitting right here as a possibility of the colors I wanted to paint them. But then I got to thinking. I was like, no. These are real wolves. They just were born and live on the Feywild. They are fairy creatures. But when they're summoned to this plane of existence, I wanted them to look magical. So what I've decided to do was to paint them the normal browns for the wolves. And I was going to paint the bases green, of course. And I was going to paint like noses, a German gray. But then I was going to dry brush them very lightly, but I was going to dry brush them with a mithril silver to give them like a sparkly look. If I had glitter, that would be even better. But I think I'm going to dry brush them with mithril silver. I probably could have done gold. I still could. I could do gold and mithril silver, but I don't want to do that. I want it to be like, just like this illusion over these wolves that they are summoned. Okay. Now I want to talk about something that's has nothing to do with the painting of the figures. The bases, right? I went ahead and used some 1-inch washers. I mean, you can see they're 1-inch washers, fender washers. And glued these wolves down. I popped them off their other bases, and I glued them down on these bases, using the PVA glue. I primed them black. And then to play with them, I used a paint marker to number the bases. One of the reasons why I do that, and this is kind of just getting into Dungeons & Dragons and the whole running of the game, it gets confusing, especially when these creatures are moving around and they're attacking different people, and they have different initiative orders, and you got to move guys around and stuff like that. Especially with all my monsters and all my NPCs, it gets confusing keeping track of who's been hit, how much damage they've taken, and so I use an app that it's called Battle Tracker. It allows me to keep track of my NPCs and monsters and stuff like that, and who's been hit. But that's all well and good on paper or on this app. But what about on the table, right? How do I know which one is which? So I use a paint pen, and I've been painting the bases with numbers. That worked great. But there is kind of a downside to that, because those numbers take away from the look of the figure. I've considered going with a color code. I'd have to come up with some really shocking colors, and maybe I could put a dot on there, like a pink dot, a blue dot, a red dot, a green dot, a yellow dot, a brown dot. I don't know. I'm going to run out of colors that are easily identifiable. I mean, I've got a million colors, but like fire engine red compared to carmine red compared to flat red, in the battle, it would be hard for me to tell which is which. So I could do dots on some and numbers on others. Thought about that. I've thought about doing like around the edge of the base a specific color, but I think I'm just going to have to stick with numbers, right? That's why I haven't been doing a lot of flocking lately on my D&D models, is because I need to number them. If I was to flock them, I'd have to put them on a bigger base, like a Warhammer base, that has like a big side. You know, like you've seen the slaughter bases, how they have a 1-inch circle, but then there's like this 1/4-inch side. I could put a number on the side and it wouldn't be so bad. But because I used washers, I've got to put it on the top. I've thought about putting it on the bottom. The problem with that is when it's on the table, I can't see it unless I have to stop and look like, oh, where's number 3 at? Oh yeah, he's over here. You know, and I don't want to do that either. All right, so let's get started. All right, so the first color we're gonna start with, and it's just gonna be a base coat, other than the black, right? It's just gonna be a base coat over the entire thing, and that's gonna be a dark brown. Now, as you see that I'm painting these wolves, I'm giving them a 100% coat. Well, let me rephrase that. I'm painting every part of their body, but I'm only giving it a light, quick coat, and you can see some of the black shining through. It basically kind of almost like a wet brush, not a dry brush, but like a wet brushing, so that the fur will not shine through, but it'll be accentuated. So I'm just doing a really quick dark brown. Actually, it's called bark brown. And that's just to give them the first coat. Now, not too thick. I want the black under to kind of shine through between the fur and take advantage of all the detail that's on the model. All right, so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just quickly brushing. I'm using like a size 3 brush. All right, now once I get all these guys with brown, I'll be right back. All right, so we got the bark brown on these guys. I'm going to set the bark brown off to the side, and we're going to let these dry for a minute because I can't paint the base green and hold the top of the model because it'll be messed up, and I can't paint the brown, the lighter brown, which I'm using Nutmeg to highlight the hair. I'm not going to be able to do that until it's dry. So let's let it dry for a minute, and then I'll be right back. All right, the bark brown is dry. What we're going to do now is we're going to do like a nutmeg. Let me get this mouse out of the way. We're going to use nutmeg as a very light dry brush over the entire model. Again, but this time we're going to do just to highlight the brown, to give it like a depth, a different texture, and I might put a little extra on the tail and the cheek hairs, and I'm using a giant brush, okay, a giant soft bristle brush. It's not a stiff bristle like you normally would do a dry brush. I'm using a soft bristle on purpose. So we get just a little bit. Wipe most of it off in the palette. Wipe some of it off on your blanket or your towel. And we just highlight it. Now let's do a little bit extra on the tail. A little extra on the cheeks. And the ears. There we go. Let's go ahead and do that again. Dip. Remove. Remove. Mostly the tail and the cheeks, the forehead, and then the entire body, but just lightly. There we go. All right, let me do all 8 of these, and then I'll be right back. All right, now I've got the nutmeg finished. We're going to let that dry for a minute, and then we'll be right back. All right, guys, here we go. Now we're going to put some German gray on their snouts to kind of give it a dark face. And I contemplated on whether or not to add this after the mithril silver or before the mithril silver, because I didn't know if I wanted the mithril silver to highlight the nose as well as the rest of the body. But then I thought about it and I was like, nah, because the nose is it's okay if it has a little bit of the gray highlighting. And I don't want any brown teeth, so I'm going to paint all the teeth black, because I do plan on going into the teeth with the silver and making them shine. So the nose and inside the mouth. I was looking at these wolves. They don't really have any tongues hanging out or anything like that for me to paint red. If I really wanted to, I could get in there and paint like their gums red and their teeth like an ivory white or something like that. That's only if I really wanted to step up my game. Right now I just want to have some nice looking wolves for Leaf, my druid, to summon. That's right, his name is Leaf. All right, let me get these snouts and teeth done. When I'm done, I'll be right back. All right, so their snouts and their teeth, and I did a couple of their ears, and I did some of their feet also with the German gray, just to give it a little bit darker. But I noticed that when I did their paws with the German gray, it made them look like hyenas, and I don't want that look. All right, the next color is mithril silver. I'm using Citadel's mithril silver, and I'm using a Citadel actual small dry brush. And what we're going to do, it's going to be ever so slight. I don't want it to be dominant on the model. I like the brown to be dominant, but I will put some silver on my brush, and I will wipe the majority of the silver off back into the tub. And then I will wash or wipe the majority of it off onto the towel before I do any kind of dry brushing. It just gives my wolf a little bit of a reflective, like it's sparkling with magic, or maybe it's, got the fairy fire glow about him or something like that. You know what I mean? You notice I didn't dip for the second wolf. I just continued with the same amount of paint. See, I don't want it to be dominant. I just want it to be on there. And I'll do some close-ups when we're done. Okay, so you can do 2 in one little dip. So here's the second dip. Wiping it off. Cleaning it off. I've heard cardboard is good for getting rid of your dry brush paint. I've actually never tried cardboard, but I've heard it was actually a good way to soak paint off of your brush. I don't see how, but more than one person has said it was good, so maybe that's something I'll experiment with on a future video. Okay, that one looks really good. You know the old saying, less is more? Well, I think that's the case with these wolves. Okay, there's 3 left. I should probably do one more dip. Wipe. Dry. Brush. All right, let me get these all dry brushed and I'll be right back. All right, guys, so the dry brushing is done. Now, one of the last things I want to do to the wolf before I do the base is paint their teeth silver. Yep, that's right. I said it. They're going to have silver teeth. It's going to be magical. All right, guys, when I get all their teeth, I'll be right back. All right, and now what I'm doing is I'm putting a very small, fine point of silver on their eyes. It makes it look very eerie when you look at a wolf with silver eyes. You'll get a chance to see this when we do the close-ups. Yeah, it's like they're glowing back at you. You know how like you have a deer in the headlights, how their eyes glow? Or a cat. It's kind of the look that it looks like. Oh, that might have been messed up, but that's all right. Now, this is not the way you would do human eyes. Or any kind of humanoid eyes. I like to do those in a different technique, which I guess I should do a video for you guys on how to do that as well. Because that is actually a very easy technique. It's just a lot of people don't realize how easy it is, and they do it the hard way. Okay, so we got all the eyes, all the teeth, the dry brush. I'm going to let that dry just a minute, and then we'll be right back. All right, guys, now what we're going to do is we're going to use some of this clover green to actually do the base. I'm going to paint over the silver numbers that I have already put on there. And then I'll show you how to do the numbers here in a minute. So now what I'm doing is I'm just painting the base green. That's all I'm doing. All right, once I get these bases painted green, I'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back. Now, all the green's painted, and it's 99% dry. I've decided I'm just going to go ahead and move on. I've decided that instead of using my silver paint pen, which actually is like a magic marker, is like super thick head, I'm going to use a paintbrush, and I'm going to use a color that contrasts with the green, but not excessively. This is pale gray blue. You can kind of see it's a greenish color. I'm not sure if it's really showing up on camera, but this is kind of a gray green, and it'll contrast with this green. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just paint the numbers on. Okay, so I'm going to take one of my wolves here, And what I had been doing is painting them on the right side. I guess it doesn't really matter where you put it, but I like to put it on the right side. And I've got a little paint on my brush, and I'm just going to put a 1 on there. Super, super simple, right? All right. Let's get the next guy. And I'm going to draw a 2. Now, I make the 2 pronounced, so because I'm probably like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 feet away from the models sometimes when they're playing on the table. So I want to be able to see my numbers from a distance. All right, guys, when I get all the numbers on, I'll be back for some close-ups. All right, guys, I got the numbers down. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that dry for just a few more minutes, and then I'm going to take them outside. I'm going to clear coat them, and then I'm going to come back and give you the close-ups. All right, I'll see you then. All right, here we go. We got our druid with his 8 summoned wolves on the battlefield. You know, you can see how the silver isn't really too pronounced on them. The silver on the teeth isn't too crazy, and the little silver dots on their eyes actually aren't too heinous. You know, it actually looks really good. These wolves look really good. Okay, well, I'll catch you next time, and thanks for watching this video. If you like it, please subscribe. If you want to support the channel, please join the channel, and I'll catch you next time.